Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. On behalf of Penn State Abington, I welcome you to today's Lunch and Learn, which will be an information session on our newest program, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Workplace Certificate. My name is Chris Cicio, and I'm the Director of Continuing Education here at Abington. I'm joined by my colleague, Robin Burgess. We both oversee this program, so if you have any questions in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, please feel free to drop them into the chat or the Q&A. Our continuing education department has 3 focus areas. We focus on professional development, and those are in areas like healthcare, in business, in tech, and we really try to provide the latest and newest information to our students so that they can have new skills, reskill, upskill, and really gain the knowledge that they need to succeed in their careers. We also have custom training for organizations, and we also have youth and community programs. We think it's really important when we're talking about a program and providing these information sessions for you to meet who you will be learning from. So you have a better understanding of the course material and of the teaching approach. So with that, I am pleased to introduce you to the program content developer and our instructor, Anissa Smith. Anissa, recently named to the Pride Power 100 list by City and State PA, is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Penn State Abington. And their mission is to create an inclusive campus community where all feel welcomed. Anissa has over 12 years experience in social justice advocacy and activism as a national speaker and educator. Additionally, Anissa is a serial entrepreneur advocating for small and Black-owned businesses. She holds a BS in health education and an MS in counseling and higher education. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Anissa, who will speak more about the program content and curriculum so you gain a better understanding of what the modules go more into detail about.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine, for that wonderful introduction. So hello, everyone. Pleasure to meet you. It gives me definitely great honor to create this curriculum as well as be able to teach it to whoever registers for our fall session. I've been doing this work for a long time. It's both personal and professional for me, which really sets the stage for how I approach the work. I believe that we all have to start somewhere foundationally and be on the same page. DEI is talked about so much in the world today, being a director of DEI, being at a recent conference where I was with people from all over the world doing this work. We know it could be very cliche and very check the box. And I'm very intentional to really create a curriculum that allows us all to look within ourselves, because I'm a lifelong learner and you have to be when you do this work. I hope to learn from the participants in this program as well as they will learn from me. That we start out with foundationally looking at terminology, looking at what is going on in the field, and people from all workplaces can come together for this commonality understanding of DEI. We have to look at how we approach work with our unconscious bias, our stereotypes that we've learned. We have to do a lot of unlearning ourselves so that we can show up and support the communities in which we serve. I think once that foundation is built, it's very important to talk about one of the largest things that's happening in our world right now is racism. And I specifically set that apart to talk about building an anti-racist workplace because that is something that is new and is a new wave of change. And I really want to teach people what it means to be anti-racist, because that is the way that we tackle racism and really talk about what that looks like in the workplace. So many people experience or witness racism in a workplace and feel really unqualified to address it. And so we really want to talk about what that looks like, mainly breaking down and talking about microaggressions. These are the everyday subliminal things that happen that we really sometimes don't think about, but for the people that experience them, we kind of call it death by 1,000 paper cuts. And it's something that folks can intervene in, that we can all be taught to notice, interject, and support the folks who are victimized by these experiences daily. And then once we can go beyond racism, there are so many other isms that we don't talk about, like ableism and sizeism and classism. And so really breaking all of these down and understanding a common overlapping term, which is called intersectionality. And it's basically how we all show up in the world with all of our identities. We don't just take one or two of our identities to work with us, we take them all, right? So how do we support our employees and our coworkers in all of their identities? How do we make sure we're being as inclusive as possible? Because sometimes it is hard and you may forget something or someone, right? And so it's just being open-minded and considering that there are so many identities, even most that we don't see. So those invisible identities are so important. And once we get a better understanding of those isms and those phobias and really what they look like every day, how to notice them, how to intervene, then it's time to talk about how we communicate, because we communicate with everything we know, right? And so depending on who we're serving, who we're talking to, and how important it is to provide great customer service to everyone and the same experience to everyone, no matter who they are, it's so important. And so we're going to spend a lot of time talking about cross-cultural communication and really how to effectively serve communities that we don't understand. How do we get to understand new communities that maybe don't look like us? Sometimes when you work with a population that you don't look like, they think you don't understand them. And so how to really cross those barriers and really open up those doors of understanding. And then lastly, but totally not least, because it's the most important part, is really discussing allyship. And I think that the take I take on allyship is really focusing on the action and not the word. So what does it mean to be an ally, and what does that look like in an inclusive workplace? Because it looks different for every single person, right? Depending on how big your workplace may be, but it's all about how we show up each and every day, how we notice things that don't directly affect us, how we speak up when it may put us on the line, and the actions we take every day to show that we care, that we're inclusive, and that it's everyone's job. I think sometimes when we think DEI, we think that it's just for, we have a DEI office or we have a DEI officer. But I think the most important part about this certificate is it's for everyone, right? Everyone in your workplace needs to be not just certified, but have a really deep understanding of what it means to be inclusive. And that's how true change can happen. If you only have one or two people doing the work, it's not going to be transformative and it's not going to sustain. It's very important to have everyone on the same board. So we're so excited. I'm so excited to have these discussions. As you can tell, this work really fires me up. I don't know, I'm probably not a typical person, but I get so excited about uncomfortable conversations. And it's definitely, some of this is going to be uncomfortable, but that's where we know true change happens. So I'm here and I'm around, and I look forward to having you and some of your colleagues in our program, and I can answer any questions at the end. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, Anissa. And you're totally right, because these are really challenging conversations, especially when you're looking at this through a personal perspective and a professional perspective. And I'm really thrilled that we have you as the instructor for this program, because you know how to navigate those conversations. And like you said, you're excited about navigating those conversations. And I think that that can make people more comfortable taking the program and learning about the content. So we wanted to talk a little bit about reasons to enroll in the program. The first is that skills-based hiring is on the rise. According to an article published by Harvard Business Review in February of this year, skills-based hiring is on the rise. So what this means is that companies are looking for skills and competencies, and they're placing strong and high value on these skills and competencies. Some of these include communication, collaboration, critical thinking or problem solving, and interpersonal skills. We align our learning objectives to meet the skills and competencies that employers value. We're very intentional about this as we're developing the curriculum to ensure that that employers are valuing what you're learning in our programs. So that's really important. Also, by earning the certificate, you can add it to your resume or LinkedIn profile, showcasing your marketable skills. But as Anissa said, this isn't just, our philosophy really is that this is not just a check the box DEI certificate. We want to give you the action steps and show you how you can show your commitment and what you can do in your roles to create change and transformative change. And lastly, employers do value lifelong learning. So this will show your dedication to continuous learning, to expanding your knowledge and building your skills, and your commitment to creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment. And I'm going to turn it over back to Anissa to talk a little bit more about reasons to enroll in the program and the importance of DEI work.
Thanks. All of the things you said are so important. As I discussed, a lot of employers don't have a DEI person. Some do and some don't, but it's very important to really understand this. And I think specifically I can speak to this program because I've designed it, is making sure you have the tools. So a lot of times employers will ask DEI questions, and some of the answers I know I've heard are very surface level, but by going through this certificate program with me, you'll actually have the tools and understanding of what to do to bring back to your workplace on how to work through these things. So it's one thing to have the level of understanding, which we'll start with, be able to identify what's happening, but then to have the tools and the solutions and the interventions to really make true change. And I think that that's one of the things that I know you will walk away with, is those really practical, relatable, realistic tools to make change, you know? So when there's a problem with microaggressions in our office, what can we do, right? And so you would be able to just provide a small activity, a different tool, a conversation starter, or a brief intervention or so. You don't need to lead a full workshop, but being able to have things in your toolbox that can help solve problems. I think for employers, they really like that, because some of your employers may not have the capacity or the capabilities or experience to have these conversations, and now you have a little bit more expertise. So it's not just about having a DEI certificate on your resume, it's being able to actualize how to make true change in a workplace, and really looking at what needs to be done, identifying what the problem may be, what the underlying ism is, and how we kind of get to the root of it. And some of that is a lot of like self-assessment, but in a workplace is focusing on a goal. And if the goal is to serve a particular community, we need to understand the community that we're serving and understanding what may be inhibiting us from serving that community to the best of our capabilities. So super excited about the tools you'll walk away with. We've all been in workshops where it was really good information, but we felt like we didn't really take anything away. And I think that's one of the things I pride myself on, is that you'll walk away with something, and you'll walk away feeling like you can make change, right? You don't have all of the answers, neither do I, but you definitely will have some tools to help make change wherever it is you go back to work at. And so I think that employers are asking DEI questions on every interview now. We know that everyone is talking about how inclusive their company is. And when I would say this, one of the things that I challenge people to do is when they ask you in the interview, do you have questions? You ask them a DEI question, right? And so giving you the capabilities to know what to ask, to know what you're looking for. When a company says they're inclusive, that you really understand what it means to be inclusive. And so I think over the time that you'll spend getting this certificate, we can unpack a lot of that to really prepare you to do well in the current job that you have or any future job that you're going to get. So it's definitely will set you apart from other folks who are applying for jobs in the future. And it's something that you definitely want to make an investment in. And the last thing I will say, it's only a start. It's I know it seems like 15 hours, but it's still foundational. And it is a start because you'll have to continue learning and growing. And this will be a great start, but it definitely will propel you ahead of other candidates for sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Denise. And I think that that's such a great point about, I think a lot of job seekers and a lot of job seekers that I talk to wonder about the questions that they should ask at the end of the interview when they have time to ask the questions. And, you know, with this statistics, 80% of workers seek inclusive companies or environments, that really should be one of the questions that we ask when we're going through the search process, to understand how they approach diversity, equity, and inclusion, and do our values really align with those of the companies and their strategies to address this. So as Anissa said, DEI is talked about a lot. There are a lot of programs, and we wanted to just give you a little bit of some background on Penn State Abington, and specifically Penn State Abington Continuing Education. So we are a reputable continuing education department. You can see that we have long-term experience in developing non-credit programming, and we have resources from Penn State. We're really excited about offering our program launch cohort in the fall as a hybrid model. We think it's really important for us to be together in person for 2 of the sessions to get to know each other and really have that interaction. Like Anissa said, with adults learning together and working professionals coming together, we learn just as much from each other, and we really feel that it's a good reason for us to be in person for a couple of the sessions. So we're excited about being able to offer this in a hybrid format in the fall. We also, I introduced Robin before, but we also provide student support throughout the program, from the time that you start thinking about enrolling to being in the program, and then after the program as well. We also offer some career advisement services. We offer free sessions. We just recently did one about tips to navigate the modern job search. We offer mini resume reviews to our students, because we really, a lot of the times when you're thinking about certificate programs, it's to build your skills and to enhance your skills and expand your knowledge. But oftentimes we're also thinking about our career paths, our career trajectories, and we want to make sure that our students and our prospective students have the tools and resources that they need to go out and look for their next job, their next career move. And I think we've talked about this, but we really are, it's very important for us to create custom curriculum with the latest information, with relevant information. We're nimble, so we can change the curriculum as needed to add in current topics. And as you can see, we have a subject matter expert, which we are thrilled about working with Anissa on the development of the program and the instruction of the program. So just a couple more program details that you might be thinking about. As I mentioned, we are having in-person sessions for modules 1 and 5. That's September 14th and October 12th. It's going to be at Penn State Abington at 611. Parking is right there. It's a really easy location to get to. Like I said, we really are catering our programs to the working professionals and understand that people have their work lives, their home lives, while also balancing going back to school. And you can see the cost for the program. And by attending this Lunch and Learn, you are eligible for a 10% discount. So you can just email me or Robin about that, and we would be happy to provide you that discount code if you do decide to register for the program. And you may be wondering, what are the next steps? If you are interested in enrolling, you would register, and we are going to drop the program webpage into the chat so that you can go directly there. Then you would complete your 5 modules, the 15 hours, as Anissa said, and then you would complete the final exam. And upon completion, students will earn a Penn State Abington Certificate of Program Completion. And we're also very excited to announce that this will be our first program where students will earn a digital badge. A digital badge is something that you will receive in your email after successfully completing the program. You'll be able to download that and either add it to your digital resume or to your LinkedIn profile. And it's really nice because we will include the skills and competencies learned after completing the program. So if employers click on the digital badge that you've earned, they'll be able to see exactly what you learned in that program and the competencies that you built. And with that, that brings us to the end of our presentation, but we will open it up to questions that our participants may have, unless Anissa, you want to add anything in at the end. No, and thank you. And Robin did drop the webpage into the chat for those that were asking about that.
The only thing I would add is I did say a lot, but the other piece of this DEI certificate is also about retention, employee retention, yes. And being a queer woman of color and working at multiple predominantly white institutions. I really know how important it is to have buy-in from all levels on how to support our underrepresented groups in the workplace, starting affinity groups or just starting social groups that support beyond just race, but sexual orientation, ability, different identity groups is another piece of this. And so that's something that we will talk about and also provide tools on how, some of the bigger companies do it. But when people think affinity group, they think it has to be large, but it's just creating a space, a closed space for people of like identities to find community. And that should be happening in various workplaces. And the statistics do show it does help to increase retention. So I think that's something that I definitely didn't mention, but is a part of this DEI, the whole full picture would be the retention of your employees of color, your employees of various gender and sexual orientations, and so things to think about. So I'll just add that, but I'm super excited to answer any questions as well.
That's a really good point. And I think it's important to kind of think about the cycle of recruitment, creating an inclusive and welcoming environment and experience for employees. And then that leads to the retention, which in the era of the Great Resignation is, of course, something that's really important.
So one question was asked in the chat, Christine, I don't know if you had thought about this, if you want to do it first. As a facilitator, I know it's really hard to facilitate it in person and then try to really engage the folks on Zoom, especially around DEI. But I think, like you said, Christine, we are flexible.
Yes.
And for example, I guess if the majority of students couldn't make the in-person, we could always change, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I will say that if there's a strong desire or interest in a fully virtual program, that's something that we can definitely offer in the future. But specifically for this question, what we do is we typically require an 80% attendance requirement. Now, for this particular program, 15 hours is quite condensed for such an in-depth topic. So I would say that what Anissa said and what I've said before is that we're really flexible. So if you miss one session or you can't attend it in person, we might be able to, and we will be able to figure out a way for you to maybe complete additional work or additional videos or readings just to make sure that you get the same material as a student. But that would only be for one session. So if you do know that you have to miss one session, I wouldn't let that deter you from enrolling in the program. So for somebody, if you have to miss more than one session, I would recommend waiting for our next program because there's really no way to make up more than one of the sessions. So we do want to make sure that we want to be as flexible as possible, but we also want to be cognizant of making sure that the students are getting everything from the course material as possible. Do you want to add anything, Anissa? Just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, perfect.
Making it one session would be okay. I would hope it wouldn't be the first one because that's really going to build our foundation. Yes. But I actually just thought about a quick way to include a person that might miss the first one. So I think we can definitely be flexible, but we will want to make sure you get introduced to the rest of the cohort, which would be important since we will all work together throughout the whole process in a very intimate way. So yes, that one session is good. 2 sessions would be a lot.
Perfect. And that was a really good point, Anissa, and just something I want to touch upon too, is that it's very important for us in continuing education, and I know for Anissa too, to provide those networking opportunities to students. So we'll make sure that you are able to do that the first day when you're in person, and then throughout the session throughout the other sessions as well. Like I said, it's just as important for us to learn from each other and be able to bounce ideas off of each other and strategies and talk about what's going on in our workplace, not only during the certificate program, but afterwards as well. Those connections really are valuable that you make in these programs.
And Christine, I don't know the answer to this question, so I see Anita Xing in the chat. Is the 5 to 8 flexible if like we need to do 5:30 to 8:30? The concern might be traffic or leaving work early.
Yeah, so if anybody has these concerns, I'm definitely taking note of them right now. I would also recommend sending me an email, because if we do need to switch it to a 5:30 to 8:30, pending, like you said, traffic and all that, we understand that, and we're definitely flexible in considering changing the time frame. I would also recommend that if you are coming from work, to consider talking with your employer too. Like I said, many employers, hopefully all of them, value lifelong learning, and they might be able to provide some flexibility for you. I do see that a lot with companies and organizations, so I would recommend talking to them. But if it's something where you don't think you're going to make the 5 o'clock time, and everybody that's on this call right now, if that seems to be a challenge, let us know, and we can definitely think about or consider changing it as well. Now or in the future, because I anticipate that we will be running multiple cohorts of this. Okay. I think that brings us to the end of the questions. Oh, we might have one more. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll wait for that. So I just want to say thank you to Anissa and thank you to Robin for joining us today and providing this information. I learned a lot, so I'm grateful that we were able to provide this to the participants. And to our participants, thank you for joining us today. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, suggestions. We are here to support you and provide what you need to succeed in the program. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone.